Now, following the announcement of Governor Hope Uzodinma of Imo State as the winner of the November 11th governorship election in the state, different reactions have trailed INEC's handling of the entire election process. While the Labour Party and the PDP have both rejected and called for the cancellation of the election over allegations of irregularities and sabotage, the APC in Imo has a different opinion. The ruling party, in an announcement, declared that the governorship candidate of the People's Democratic Party (PDP) and his Labour Party counterpart failed to win last Saturday's poll because of an internal crisis in their parties. Let's now remind you that a total of 18 candidates from various political parties participated in the election process.
Now, according to the results declared by the Independent National Electoral Commission, the APC won in all 27 local government areas of the state. Joining us to further discuss the outcome of the election in Imo State is Katch Ononuju. He's a political analyst and DG Heritage Center, Abuja. Good morning, and thanks for joining us, Mr. Ononuju.
Thanks for having me.
Good to have you. We're also joined this morning by Nameka Obiariri, a political analyst, economist, and investment banker. Good morning, Mr. Obiariri.
Good morning, Mr. Thanks for having me.
All right. I'm gonna, probably just start with Mr. Ononuju, to get once again your reactions. I think the last time we spoke, I asked about Hope Uzodinma's victory at the elections, even if a lot of people, called the elections, very fraudulent, and claimed that there are places where elections didn't even hold, but it was declared victory. I pointed out the fact that he had more than 500,000 votes, but the number of registered voters didn't seem to be matching up. The number of votes, in the presidential elections in total, also wasn't up to 500,000. So a lot of things were just not, matching up. But I want to know if you can say, if you would say that, he has performed so well in the last 4 years, then that's why the people of Imo State came out en masse to vote for Hope Uzodinma, in 2023.
I would not say that. I would say that the votes are a consequence of the judiciary's not doing anything in regards to the complaint in Lagos regarding voter suppression. If the judiciary would not punish those who undermine democracy being free and fair, then you don't expect people in Kogi, Imo, or any other place to be afraid of repeating what happened in Lagos, because what happened in Lagos was not punished by the judiciary. Neither did INEC raise any voice against it. So you are likely to have people in other places where the ruling party is going in for election to behave in the likelihood of what happened in Lagos, as they believe the judiciary would not do anything. That's what I put that to. I don't really think there is a lot to be expected by us saying one or two things. No. If the judiciary cannot punish people who engage in illegal activity during the elections, don't expect any silver lining anywhere, whether it's in Imo or Kogi states.
Oh, well, okay, well, I was only just reacting or reflecting back on your views from our last conversation. Yes, I agree that there needs to be more punitive measures, for electoral offenders. And that's, maybe a slightly different, conversation. But, in our last conversation, you inferred that Hope Uzodinma had done, pretty well on certain roads that had been built, and certain levels of infrastructure that he had put in place, that made the people of Imo State, maybe, think that he deserved a second term compared to Samuel Anyanwu and Ethan Achonu. Do we still stand by those thoughts?
Yes, what I was saying then was I was looking at what is it on the ground that you could say Mr. Uzodinma has done. And I took to analysis the Owerri Oga Road, which is the road that passed through Olo, the Owerri Umahia Road, which is under construction, the road that passed through Mbise, and of course the Owerri Okigwe Road, which is the road that passed through Bonatan and Angara. And those are, to my own view, the only visible infrastructural works that I have seen him do. And I said, if based on those roads, which I believe in the past 22 years, no other politician had done anything of that quality, then that is what he brings to table to say, this is what I have done. And I said, those are the only visible things that I, who go home every time from Abuja, can point to. But if you look at the conduct of people during the election, that was why I now brought in the Lagos analogy, saying in regards to the misbehaviors of the election in places where it was not free and fair, you will have to look to the fact that those who committed the same actions in Lagos were not punished. So I do not think anybody can expect anything different with the current INEC chairman, Mr. Mahmoud Yakubu, and he's a couture of staff who have the same mindset. I believe Nigeria needs electoral return. I believe President Tinubu should behave like President Yar'Adua, admit that things are wrong, and then set up processes towards reforming the system. I believe that the system as it occurred in Imo State left a lot to be desired. And I believe that it should not be condoned the way it went. What kind of election is that? 27 local government out of 27, that means there was no opposition. That's not true. Come on, you should understand that. But then that's why I told you, if you want to look at on the ground, what you could say Mr. Uzodinma could be judged upon are the roads that I have called now, with their own accompanying drainages that went with it. But if you go into Menuwe, you will see that there are a lot of challenges to be done. If you go to the other places inside those cities, in the inner cities of Okigwe or where itself, a lot remains desired, and that is the truth. So the only visible roads I have seen from which you could actually want to make a judgment of Mr. Uzodinma is the Owerri-Olu road, which is being built as a federal road, for which is taking some reform, and the Owerri-Umuahia road, which goes through Mbise, and then the Owerri-Okigwe road, which I also pointed out. Yes. Apart from that, a lot remains to be desired from those of the administration.
Yeah, I remember even as you spoke about the roads and how much work he had done regarding the roads. I remember you mentioned something about no governor having been able to match that record in about 20 years. And yes, you've talked about this road.
That is a fact.
Yes,
that is a fact.
Okay, so
none of them who have been in power for the past 22 years has done any road of that quality. Okay, I repeat that again.
And I'm very glad
how I try to judge.
I'm very glad that you are from Imo State and Mr. Obiariri is also from Imo State, and both of you visit home as well. Mr. Obiariri, in our last interview, had different opinions regarding that, and I'd like you, Mr. Obiariri, to share your thoughts on some of the things Mr. Ononuju has said.
By the special grace of God, I'm an investment banker and development economist who work based on facts. Over the last 46 months, the government of Uzodinma has received over 450 billion naira by way of FAC, JAC allocation, IGR, and borrowings. As of today, on the last count 3 months ago, Imo's total debt bill is about 205 billion. The roads Dr. Katch Ononuju mentioned are federal government roads. And from Okigwe, to be precise, the way to Okigwe is 62 kilometers, straight to St. Mary's, Okigwe town. Owerri to the point that the road terminated on is 47 kilometers. The Owerri to Umuahia Mbise road is still under construction, is immoderable as of today. In Imo State, anybody who is very sincere and honest, go to the rural areas. In fact, there was even a World Bank assisted ramp road, rural areas, that was started under Yar'Adua. It created about 3 kilometer roads in most of the electoral wards in Imo State. Yar'Adua federal road under a World Bank assistance program, who Uzodinma abandoned those roads. As of today, those roads have been abandoned. World Bank assistance program. Now let me ask us one question. I am a builder. I have financed construction of roads as an investment banker. I have even done roads as an entrepreneur. 2.2 kilometer road in swampy areas in Delta State. I know how much it costs. Let us even assume, for the sake of given, that Hope borrowed 500 million per kilometer to do those roads. 109 kilometer road. At that rate, how much did it cost? I come from Okibo local government area. My last check at the Federal Ministry of Finance showed that over 4.5 billion were received by the Imo State government on behalf of Okibo local government area by way of Jack. There is no single project anywhere in Okibo local government area that can account for the 4.5 billion that Hope and his gang picked from Abuja, not by any of their dint of hard work, but by the dint of allocation from the proceeds of the crude oil gotten from the Niger Delta area, which Imo State is part of. The same thing happened under Rochas. In 96 months, Rochas collected over 11.2 billion on behalf of Okibo local government area. The same practice, they gather in order, they share the money and misappropriate it. Now, it is heartbreaking. This is beyond politics. Practically, most communities in Okigwe are deserted. You know, one of the things, I wept when I saw the result that they cooked up in Okigwe. 7 wards out of 11 wards in Okigwe local government area. Go and ask anybody. No INEC official showed up because they were scared of the insecurity. Those are community wards inhabited by bandits. Those were the same wards that the military were bombing. One of us was aware that some certain parts of the military were bombed by the military. Uzodinma and his gangsters had the guts and the effrontery to go to Okigwe local government area in wards where no INEC official showed up to cook up 55,000 votes. Never in the history of democracy in Imo State has Okigwe turned out even up to 20,000 votes. Not even another presidential election where we had huge turnout. And INEC accepted it. Just, I agree with Dr. Katch. Let me explain to you this. Until we execute massive constitutional and electoral reform, it's going to be the same way. Somebody asked me, why didn't you prepare to lead? I said, hear yourself. There is no sane Nigerian who is rational, who has conscience, and who desires the best for this country, that should have at the mark of his mind wiki when he enters into an electoral contest. Politics and political office quest is a call to serve. Imo State have never had a governor who had presided over such monumental atrocity as the current APC government. Can I tell you something? Ask Hope Uzodinma if he had ever visited any of these 7 electoral wards for once to see the plight and the state of those that he purported to govern. But yet, in fact, there was one young man who lives in Europe. The guy sent me a picture of his house. The guy toiled for 4 years to build that house. That house today, in Ametiti in Okigwe, is occupied by the Ebubago bandits that the Imo State government uses to terrorize those that oppose him. And that is the kind of government that we have in Imo State. Occupying people's sweat. The guy said he sent his mother there, and they told the mother that they are occupying his son's house because they will stay under the rain. Interestingly, the whole vision of Ebubago by the Southeast governors was to build a local vigilante, community-based vigilante, co-opted from those communities. In Imo State today, I come from Ihube. There is no member of the Ebubago that is from my community. What you see are strange faces. People not even speaking the Igbo dialects. And those are new. You see, the truth be told, they've rigged the election. INEC had declared Hope. See, like Dr. Katch explained, what we see today in Nigeria today is no longer democracy. Basically, what we are seeing is a case of politicians getting the police and the army and INEC to be on their side, rigging the election and expecting to go and ask to go to court. And of course, we all know most potential players we have today actually pay for play. It is not like the days of Chukudifo Oputadem. It was not like the days of Owayas. What we have today are mostly aeroplane driving members of the judiciary. So basically, we are at a crossroad. The only thing that can redeem this land is for us to execute massive constitutional, fiscal, and electoral reform. Interestingly, the current president of Nigeria, Bola Tinubu, was at the forefront of clamor for sovereign national conference. He was at the forefront of fiscal federalism. APC wrote it in their manifesto. Today, nobody is talking about restructuring. Nobody is talking about fiscal federalism. Nobody is talking about sovereign national conference. It's practical. In fact, this is his first election. And this is worse than what happened under Buhari.
All right. And let's bring back.
Beyond politics, I can tell you this. If nothing urgent is done, and in fact, I've actually also because who are those that will to social Nigeria? Is it the same political class? Across party line, they are all the same.
All right, let's bring back Mr. Ononuju, to also then speak a little further on, INEC, as a body. And, I did mention earlier in the show this morning that it doesn't seem like we've moved many steps away from elections, in 2003. 20 years later, we still are carrying out elections in almost the same, fashion. It's just a new electoral act, but it's the same things that are playing now. And also the strength of the, campaign for Ethan Achonu and Samuel Anyanwu, what are your thoughts on how Imo State residents also received these two major candidates?
I will tell you what you had in Imo wasn't a free and fair election. It was like a mechanized instrumentation. And then you have this outcome of who is more prepared, who has more brigade on the ground to actually bring in the votes, in which way the votes were done to be brought in. And that's why I think for us going forward, we need to reform the system. But then if the process that brought President Bola Tinubu in, as we saw in the Act protocols of voter suppression in Lagos, are the things to go about, and he has not taken the Yar'Adua steps to agree that there's something wrong and that there's a need for us now to actually start to repair it. And that simply tells you we're going nowhere. That's why I told you that whatever anybody thinks or does, there is a need for us to reform the electoral system. It is not fair. What we saw in Imo and Kogi, that's not election. Those things are not there yet. What are we going to do? Because what you look at is if you start going to court, if you start arguing about it, what would the judges say? And as I said earlier, the judiciary right now is in a status of capture. And if you try, they will use the judiciary, weaponize it against the Constitution itself. So I think the country is in dire needs. So whatever you want to say, we have to look at this picture holistically. It's not about Imo State, it's not about Kogi State, nor Bayelsa. It's about Nigeria and the health of our democracy. Don't forget, currently, members of the international community do not currently view Nigeria as a democracy. Nigeria is seen as a hybrid, allowing electoral free and fair votes where necessary, and where they do not want, like in Lagos and other places, they will fight to the last man to force an outcome. So I believe you cannot get what you do not have. It's what you have that you can give. And that's what we have right now is a broken system. Let's not agonize over it.
Okay, we seem to be having a major connection problem. Mr. Ononuju, are you back here with us?
Yes,
All
I
right.
am here.
All right, great.
I don't want to pretend as if things are okay or as if we can solve them. There's no magic bullet. No.
All right.
It's a national emergency, and we need to sit down as a country and start now. So members of opposition also have to come together, because you cannot fight the APC as they are determined to seize and capture the country and its democracy. You can't fight them on your own. You have to come together as a group. You have to come together as a merged coalition, just the same way the APC did in 2014, leading to 2015 election. that led to the PDP leaving where it left. And that's where I blame some of those greedy leaders who do not think about the country, who think it is them, them. And that was how the opposition was split. When people out of anger due to lack of inclusion formed opposition, broke everything apart. I believe we need to come together for us to fix the democracy.
All right, I'd like to take the conversation in a different direction, still referencing coming together and, maybe trying to work together. Part of the ways in which it might seem that people of Imo States might be working together would be the Charter of Equity, which you made reference to in our last interview. And you talked about, this, of course, would give opportunity for the gubernatorial seats and the election rotation, or for the seat to be rotated among the different local government areas. Share with us your thoughts on the Charter of Equity. You did say that this may have been a reason why the people of Imo would have voted Hope Uzodinma and given him a second chance to continue the work he started in the first term.
Yes, as I explained earlier, the Charter of Equity, which was the carrot Governor Hope Uzodinma was floating, had an incredible impact in the Owerri senatorial zone. So they are now, as I have heard as of yesterday, the Owerri senatorial zone has the Mbise block. They also do have the Owerri and the Keduru block. Those are the people now who were told, if you're gentle with me, Hope Uzodinma, when I finish, I will remember that over 23, 24 years of democracy, it's been Olo, Rochas Okorocha, Olo, Achiko Denwa, Olo, Hope Uzodinma. There is a need to give the other sections of the state a sense of belonging. And these sections are Okigwe zone and, of course, the Owerri zone. But in that argument, Owerri zone say they've not had power. The only time they had access to power was through Chief Evan Enwem, who did about 8-9 months before he was removed by the military junta through a coup. The people of Okigwe also say it is their turn because they've only had one stint of 4 years done by Governor Ikedo Hakim. I agree. There must be that Charter of Equity that will protect the right of other people to come in. But don't forget this. The Charter of Equity has
seems the network again.
Something that is law. It is not yet enshrined in law. The Charter of Equity in Imo State has been bandied about by Governor Uzodinma. It's not yet enshrined in law. Anything that is not held in law may not be respected by inordinately ambitious politicians. That we must work at. The Charter of Equity is a good thing. It is a story about inclusion. Why do I say this? Igbos cannot come to the national politics and be preaching of inclusion, but when they go back home, they refuse to include their brothers. So Olo must see that people of Okigwe zone and people of Owerri zone are given a sense of belonging.
All right, so let's
now that the governor has said Charter of Equity, that's a good way to go.
All right.
We need to sit down and, if possible, give it the teeth of law so that it should be respected by whoever that can come tomorrow from Olo and start saying he has the power to do this and do that.
Permit me to interject at this point. I'd like to bring in Mr. Obiariri so he can react to this. I know he had differing opinions about
in the interest of time.
Yeah, in the interest of time, we'd like you, Mr. Obiariri, to react to the Charter of Equity. What do you think about it?
If anybody who believes so Uzodinma based on track record is just deceiving himself. And there's nothing like Charter of Equity in Imo State, and it never had any impact on this election. Only if look at the votes. Over the municipal, 134,000 votes. They were only able to reach 9,926 votes, less than 7%. Over the north, 134,000 registered voters, only 18,000 turned up. And if you look at the IREF, less than 9,000 was accredited. Most of the votes there were loaded by APC. Over the west, 140,000 voters, 16,000, only 8,000 captured by IREF. The voters turnout in the Owerri zone was less than 10%. It does not show anybody in the Owerri believe the lie. They know that he's deceiving them. They will deceive them. This how can you trust a man who has never kept faith to anything he said? A man who is better than unreliable. Let us come to sit and say, what Dr. Katch said is good. Charter of Equity is good. Inclusiveness is good. But what we want now in Nigeria is charter of good conscience. charter of good governance, charter of respect for the law and the constitution. And that is what, let me tell you this, and I'll be very upfront. Until we totally overhaul the constitutional, physical, resource production and administrative framework of Nigeria, this country will continue to be on the southward trajectory to go better. You see, across party line, look at National Assembly. They shared 110 billion among themselves. Those who wrote on the bandwagon effect of P2B's appeal in the Labour Party, even after the National Party chairman told them to reject those SUVs, refused and they collected it. Who are those that will amend the constitution? Who are those that will carry out the physical and electoral reforms? The same beneficiaries. We are in for a long night. The only thing for me, I have resolved as a person, is to try and build my constituency, raise my family, raise my children, try and have influence over my nephews and nieces. Teach them and train them to understand what is value, what is love, what is compassion, what is principle. So that when they grow up the way my father raised me, they will understand that governance and anything that has to do with public service is a call to serve and not a call to steal and to loot. Let me tell you, even most of those who backed P2B during the revolution of February 25th, most of them were actually following him because, just like many people follow Jesus, because they were after the people, but they also wanted the power. They don't understand the call for service and what it represents. Until we execute structural reforms, carry out massive institutional reforms.
All right.
I will tell you this country will continue to be on the southward. Let me tell you, everybody should tighten his belts. I listened to your newspaper review. This government, they have lost track. As I'm talking to you today, they are clueless of what to do with the economy. And the only way to fix this land is for them to, the same people who have been crying for sovereign national conference, let them go back to the sovereign confab report of November of 2014. Dust it, hand it over to the National Assembly for them to pass it into law.
All right, Mr. Barry.
Until we restructure Nigeria, I am sorry to announce to us globally that this country will go from worse to worse. Nothing will change.
Well, I don't even know if to say hopefully we won't, because, at this point, hope or no hope, the realities, would be the realities, regardless of how you wish. Even if you wish the president, success, or you wish him bad, the reality will be the reality. A government that, doesn't know the steps that it needs to take to fix the country will continue to send the country down. A government that claims to have inherited a bad economy from the previous administration, and then goes on to be buying presidential yachts and buying cars for the first lady and giving out 400 billion naira as cash, transfer to citizens. Doesn't seem like a government that understands where, it needs to take the country. Mr. Ononuju, thank you very much for your time this morning. We're out of time on the program. We thank you for joining us and for sharing your thoughts with us. We hope that we can set up, more of these conversations to maybe even explore on the NLC's strike, hopefully before the end of the week. And Ms. Abiari, also thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for joining us.
We enjoy speaking with you both.
Thank you for having me.